Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Stephanie Soares, physical therapist, certified bike fitter, and owner of Cape Cod Bike Fit. I'm passionate about empowering women through cycling, so I've put together some information to help with getting started. So let me pull up my presentation here. All right, so today we'll cover the basics, how to pick a bike, some of the required equipment to get started, things along those lines. So let's get started just by looking at the history of the bicycle a little bit. In 1817, the walking machine was invented, and I pulled up a little video here, also called the dandy horse. So just so you get an idea of where everything started. So that's the dandy horse, which to me looks like the Strider bike that a lot of kids are starting on now. And then, so from there, in the 1870s, penny farthings were introduced, which are kind of funny to watch. So I put a little video of that in here as well. We'll skip ahead a little bit. Let's see. So this to me doesn't look like the most functional bicycle, but it is a start. So these funny things were used for racing, and delivery folks use them as well. But luckily, things have changed since then. I don't know that I would want to be that high off the ground when I was riding my bike for sure. So let me get back to the rest of the history here. So thankfully, the next development in the bicycle was the safety bicycle, which essentially just had a smaller wheel up front. And then the next big development, which I'm very thankful for, in 1887, pneumatic tires were added to the bicycle instead of the rigid wooden and metal wheels, which I'm sure did not make for a very smooth or comfortable ride. So that's the history. We'll go past the videos we already watched. So we'll just cover the benefits of cycling. Most of these are pretty well known, but we'll go through them. So increased cardiovascular fitness is a huge benefit to riding a bike. As with most exercise, decreased stress, anxiety, and depression, weight loss, increased muscle strength, and strengthened immune system. But as with all exercise, it's important to check in with your physician prior to starting anything new just to make sure that you're healthy enough to participate. So once you decide that you would like to get into cycling, the next thing to do is choose a bike. And since we've progressed quite a bit from the old dandy horse style, there are plenty of options when you go into the bike shop, which can be a little overwhelming. So we'll go over some of the basic styles of bikes. We won't go through all of them. I just picked a few that would probably be good for people who are starting. So things to consider when you're trying to select a style of bike. Most importantly is your intended terrain. So will you be riding just on the road? Do you want the ability to go on some dirt trails, gravel, sand? All those things will really help you narrow down which style of bike to select. Other things to consider are the material of the frame. A lot of that ties directly into the price point of the bike. Other things, frame shape. So there are various shapes. Mostly this just refers to the top tube, which we'll talk more about as we look at the various styles of bikes. Other things to consider, shape of the handlebars, and for the purpose of our talk today, we'll pretty much go through bikes that have flat handlebars, drop handlebars, and cruiser handlebars. Other considerations would be if your bike has a suspension versus no suspension. So we'll start with the road bike. The road bike features these drop handlebars, so that's this curve here. It gives you a few different places to put your hands. The most common is up here on the brake hoods, but you can also put your hands in the drops, that's why it's named the drop handlebar. And then from time to time to change position, folks also put their hands up on the handlebar more towards the middle, towards the stem. The road bikes do not have a suspension. They have a solid fork, which you can see right here. And they have, in most cases, a horizontal or sloping top tube. In the example pictured here, this is a sloping top tube, meaning that it's not going straight across to the seat post. And that's pretty common nowadays, but you can still come across bikes that have a horizontal top tube. Now, the other characteristic of a road bike is having narrow tires. It allows for speed, and it's also a lighter option compared to wider tires that are available. So the next bike is a mountain bike, which is a pretty drastic change from the road bike. So this bike could be used for riding on dirt trails, any sort of loose surface. I don't recommend sand for the mountain bike. We'll talk more about a bike that can go in the sand a little later in the presentation. Typical characteristics of a mountain bike are having flat handlebars. They have a suspension. It can be a hardtail, meaning that it just has the suspension and the fork up front, or it can be full suspension, which also has a component in the rear of the bike. The difference between those two, a lot of it has to do with the comfort and the shock absorption, obviously, but also the price point. A full suspension will definitely cost considerably more than just having the spring and the fork at the front. The tires of a mountain bike are wider than those of a road bike, and they're also knobby. That'll help you with traction. And the mountain bike allows the rider to be in a more upright position, whereas the standard road bike is more of a forward positioning. Another bike option is the hybrid bike. I'd say this is probably the most common bike that you'll see on the bike path. It's kind of, as the name suggests, a hybrid between the road bike and the mountain bike. They have the flat handlebars. A nice feature is it's a modest price point, so that's a good way to get started for sure. The tires are wider than a road bike, but narrower than a mountain bike. And in this picture, they have quite a bit of tread. Some hybrid bikes have more of a flat tire, but either way, they're good for paved surfaces, and they can also accommodate to packed dirt surfaces as well. So if you're not really sure where you'd like to ride, this is definitely a good option to get started. And just as with the mountain bike, the hybrid bike allows you to have more of an upright positioning. So we'll go on to the cruiser style bike, which is a fun multi-use bike. Just like the hybrid, you can ride it on paved surfaces, you can ride it on packed dirt. This particular photo doesn't really show the true width of the tires. In most cases, the tires are usually a little bit wider than those of a hybrid bike, which means that you won't get as much speed, but it's a more comfortable ride for sure. Most cruisers have these kind of curved handlebars and definitely feature a more upright positioning. Again, like the hybrid, cruisers are a modest price point and are really great for folks who have lower extremity considerations because they have the nice step-through top tube, so you don't have to really lift your leg too far to get to the other side of the bike, which is nice. And they're definitely built for comfort and stability. It's a great around town bike. As you can see, this one has a basket, and there's also an area in the back to have cargo. So if you wanted to do a little bit of grocery shopping or something like that, this is a good option for that. My favorite would be the Fat Tire bike. It's so versatile. You can ride it in the dirt, in the sand, in the snow. Not ideal for trying to keep up with your friends on hybrid bikes or road bikes. These bikes are definitely not as fast on asphalt just because of the tires. They're really wide, really knobby, but great for all sorts of terrain. They come with a suspension or without a suspension. The photo of my bike here doesn't have a suspension. I find that with the fat bike tires, you can adjust the air pressure so much in the tires that it almost acts like a suspension. So definitely not a requirement, especially to start. The fat tire bikes have a straight or sloping top tube. In the picture, you'll see it's a sloping top tube. So a very comfortable bike. Again, upright positioning and a good bike for stability. Really helps you, especially if you don't have a great balance. The softness and the wide tires really help you with that quite a bit. The other option with the fat tire bike is you can add studs to your tires for traction in snow or ice. So if you're interested in riding your bike in the winter, that's a good option. So let's get into required equipment. First and foremost, definitely a well-fitting helmet. And it doesn't matter what kind of bike you're riding, how fast you're going, where you're riding, you need to have a helmet, and you need to make sure that it's positioned appropriately and that it's not moving around a lot on your head. So definitely a huge safety point, and the most important thing we'll cover today. So definitely wear a helmet. Other things, identification. So have something on you that has your name, date of birth, and even better if you can have some kind of emergency contact on you somewhere, in your bike bag or in your pocket. So if something happens, whoever is assisting you can get in touch with someone that knows you. Safety feature, definitely have a flashing tail light. It's really important for visibility. It doesn't matter if you're riding in the day or night or on the bike path or not. Flashing tail light is really important. Other things, water. So having a bottle cage attached to the frame of your bike or wearing some kind of pack that has water in it is perfectly fine. But definitely, if you're using your bike, having some water is definitely a good thing to have. Another tool that you don't necessarily have to bring with you on your bike, but definitely have a tire pump so that you can make sure you have enough air in your tires. And we'll go more into that in a future session. So other things, it's nice to have a flat kit, even if you're not confident in changing your own tire. Chances are someone will pass you that knows how to do it, and as long as you have the equipment you need, they can help you out with that. So having a tube that is the appropriate size for your bike, having some tire levers, and some way to inflate your tire. And again, that's something we'll go over more in a future lesson, but certainly if you go into your local bike shop or search around online, you can easily find the components you'd need for a flat kit. Something else that's good to have is some bike chain lube. It just keeps your bike running well and will increase the life of the components of your drivetrain. Something that I really recommend is bike-specific clothing, especially shorts. Even if you're not riding that far, having bike shorts will really improve your comfort. You don't have to wear spandex. You can wear shorts over so that you're not wearing spandex shorts if that's not your thing. But no matter what you choose, I definitely recommend some kind of padded short. And also bike gloves, especially when you're just starting. Having bike gloves is great because if for some reason you topple over, it's good to have some protection so that you're not scuffing up your hands. And it also helps you just with comfort in riding. So rules of the road. if you're riding in traffic, definitely obey all the traffic laws. And it's really important to use hand signals to tell other cyclists or motorists if you're stopping or turning. And I have a slide to cover what those hand signals are coming up. And announce when you're passing to pedestrians or other cyclists. People get very frightened if you just zip by them on your bike. So just tell them, tell them that you're passing on their left. People really appreciate the warning, and it's a good way to make sure that someone doesn't suddenly take a step towards you or stop. Just a safety thing. And then if you do ride with traffic, please ride in the same direction of traffic. Don't ride against traffic. Again, just a really important safety thing. So here is a graphic of the hand signals. Turning to the left is pretty obvious, just bringing your arm to the left. Turning to the right can be either of the two hand signals here. So the left elbow bent at a 90-degree angle, or just bringing your arm to the right. And then stopping is just a palm with your elbow bent, and then slowing down is just kind of moving the arm a little bit near the stopping position, just so that people know what you're doing. You know, you don't want to surprise anyone with what you're doing on the bike. It's just can create a dangerous situation. So on the Cape, where I'm based, here are a few great places to get started with cycling and build your confidence on paths before you venture out onto the road. The Cape Cod Canal Bike Path is a great place to start. That's on either side of the canal. It's nice and wide, and there are always a lot of folks on there if you end up needing some help. The Shining Sea Bike Path goes from North Falmouth to Woods Hole. It's a very pretty ride. Again, it's well traveled, so if you did need anything, chances are someone will come your way. And the longer option is the Cape Cod Rail Trail. Great bike path, goes from Yarmouth to Wellfleet. Various places to park along the way. So just a really friendly place to get started and get comfortable on your bike. So some great resources for new riders. I recommend massbike.org, bicycling.com, and parktool.com. Parktool is a great resource if you're confused about more of the mechanic side of things with your bike or just basic maintenance. So great resource to get started. So if you have any questions about any of the information we covered today, please reach out to me. This is my contact information. Feel free to follow Cape Cod Bike Fit on social media, and stay tuned for our next session, which will cover building confidence and skills on your bike. So thanks for joining me today, and I hope to see you at the next session.